Okay, so first off, congratulations for being accepted into the full applicant round. It was definitely a competitive process and not everyone made the cut. So congratulations to you guys, and you're on the way, and best of luck throughout the next month getting those proposals in. So I'm Noelle Savoyan. It's just myself here today. Emma Hansen is my colleague, and she joins me a lot, and she does a lot of the Q&A as well over email. So you may be familiar with that name as well. And if you have questions moving along, she can certainly answer them. So we're on the last webinar of this round, this FY17 Working Lands Grant Program round. And today we're going to talk about your goals, performance measures, and outcomes template. That will be the bulk of what we talk about, as well as your work plan, which should be a little less complex. If you have your applicant guide in front of you, which should have been attached when I sent that email, it is your goals, performance measures, and outcomes is number 9, and it's on page 14. And that's where we will get started. So if you have that nearby, you can open that up. That would be helpful. And if not, that's fine too. I'll cover most everything here. Okay, so just a little, you guys know this already, but just a little overview again that all of your applications must be submitted online. That same site that you did your letter of intent. So you'll log back in. You won't start a new application, but you will click on Apply Final, and then you will have some new sections pop up. What's cool about the full application is that all of those sections you filled out in your letter of intent are still there, and they're editable. So you can go in, and anything that's changed as your project has been progressing, you can make those edits right in your previously submitted letter of intent question text boxes. The only thing that you cannot change is, well, you can, let me rephrase that. You can't ask for more money than you were approved for. So let's say you asked for $15,000 and we said, that looks great, you know, apply final, go for it, congratulations. You can't now ask for 20. You have to stick with 15. You may have received an email that said, we suggest that you request lower funding or really show how you're impacting the supply chain. So in that case, you can drop your request down, but no one can go higher. That said, those little pieces of the budget, you can alter and change because your projects are still changing and they're still coming to be. So your deadline for this is Thursday, February 9th. This time it's at 4 p.m. Last time we set the deadline at noon. This time we thought a little bit later in the afternoon would just be a little bit nicer for everyone. So we're going for 4 p.m. And you can always contact myself or Emma if you have any technical issues the day of. Give me a call before the deadline. If something's going on and you know you can't get it in by 4, let me know beforehand. Even if I can't pick the phone up, leave me a message, and then I'll know and I'll work with you to make sure you can get it in later that day. Okay, so we're going to go right into it, goals and performance measures. So there's this crazy template in your applicant guide. If you've applied before or have been a previous grantee, you're very familiar with the process. But if you're not, it's a little bit new and it might be a little bit confusing. So your goals and performance measures template, you have a goal, a corresponding performance measure, and then your expected outcome. The picture that's up there on the screen, that's what it looks like in the grants management system. And you will actually go to add, you'll click here, and a goal will come up, or a text box for a goal will come up, a text box for a performance measure, and a text box for an expected outcome. And what you'll do is you'll fill these in. Looking at what each one of these is, it's a little confusing. So I want to just go to the next slide here, just so you can see an example, and then we'll go back. So this is an example of a successful goals template that's been filled out. Your goal basically says what you're trying to accomplish. There aren't any quantitative numbers there. It could be something like what's up there, lower meat processing costs and processing bottlenecks. It could be something such as new businesses are able to use the equipment, or sales are increasing for my business. Your performance measure, the next column over, is once again not a quantitative number, but it's really the measurement you're using. So in this case, in this first example, it could be pre and post development meat processing costs, pre and post development meat processing time. And you're going to write it in just like that. You're not going to put what that cost actually would be, because that cost or that percentage goes right into your outcome. So your outcomes are measurable. So if we use another example, we could say a goal is new businesses are able to use equipment. Your performance measure would be number of businesses using equipment, and your expected outcome would be quantitative, 4 businesses using equipment. So your goal is your overall what you're trying to do. Your performance measure is kind of what measurement you're using. Are you using percentages? Are you using cubic feet? Are you using just the units? What else? What else could we put in there? We could say number of businesses, or increase in amount of dollars. And then your outcome really gets to that measure of what you're going to do and what that end result is. So you can see right there on the screen the list of them. We'll go to one more example. So this is another example where the goal is the first column, just familiarizing. It doesn't say goal up there, but imagine goal, performance measure, expected outcome. So your goal is, I want to increase my early tomato production and help satisfy local demand. How am I going to measure that? So my performance measure is going to be, and you would write in, the volume of tomatoes harvested and sold on the farm in June and July. And then your outcome, you would put, it wouldn't be X here, you put an actual amount right in there. So increased from 200 to 800 pounds of early tomatoes harvested in June and July. So you put that number right in there. One thing you'll notice looking at these 2 templates, they're actually pretty complex examples, and they don't have to be that complex. One thing to really think about is whatever you put into this template, sure, it's great to have really aggressive goals and outcomes in your templates, but you do have to report on them. And you do need to, these goals, performance measures, and outcomes need to take place in your 18-month grant agreement period. So that would be from spring of next year, if you're awarded, to November, December 2018. So when the board looks at these, they're really looking for realistic, something realistic. It doesn't have to be like this one, for example, increased winter, spring, and early summer cash flow. There's 2 in here and 2 performance measures and 2 outcomes. You don't have to do that. You just have to have 3 to 5. So if you find 3 really good goals, performance measures, and outcomes, just put 3 in. If you have 5 and your project really includes 5, then put 5 in. If one of your goals has 2 correlating outcomes, you can certainly put in 2. but you definitely don't have to. So looking at this, I've noticed that, prior applicants in prior years have, tried because they look at a template or they think, I really want to have these great outcomes. So they get really aggressive. But it's really hard because then as a grantee, you have to meet those outcomes. Another thing to note, here, let's go back. Another thing to note is that these goals, so this goal and outcomes template is only for that grant agreement period. So you're not putting in a goal with a correlating performance measure and a correlating outcome that you'll see in 2020. You're going to put in a goal with a performance measure and an outcome that you'll see by the end of your grant agreement period, something that's realistic and something that's measurable. Another thing that's really helpful as you are thinking of what goals to use and what outcomes to use is you want to think about what's your baseline. So if you have a number that you're working with now that's measurable, you can absolutely include that in your outcome. So if it just, here it says 10% decrease in meat processing costs at the top, you could say 10% decrease in meat processing costs, 2017 baseline cost is X dollars, whatever you want. And that gives the board a really good sense of where you're starting from and where you want to go. So we'll just go back to this crazy instructions template because it's a lot of information. So we'll go back to that. Other things that could be useful. So this year, we're only asking for 3 to 5 goals. In prior years, applicants can put in as many as they want. So if you only have 3 to 5, I'd say you could certainly focus on your RBAs. So when I say RBA, you might be like, what is she talking about? Sorry, that is results-based accountability. So in your letter of intent, you've already been asked to type in your sales, so your impact, so your gross sales because of this project, acreage, potential acreage increase, or new jobs that will be created. Those are great goals, performance measures, and outcomes to start with. And if you can include maybe two of those can be either sales, 2 of your goals could be sales related or jobs related or production increase related, then you're really set. And you could have a third one of your choosing and up to 5. So it's really your choice, but I would say those results-based accountability measures, the jobs, sales, production, acreage increase, those are great ones to start with and great ones that the board's really looking at, and we use those to report to the legislature every year and to really evaluate our program. So I'd say start there, and if there are others, absolutely include them as they relate to your project. And that is also stated right on page 14, that you're encouraged to include at least 2 of the outcomes. So you can read through that at your leisure. If you are asking for over $20,000 and the board approved that amount, in your goals template, you should quantify your supply chain impact. So make sure in your template that you're not only including outcomes for your business, but including other businesses that will benefit and measurable outcomes for those businesses as well. And that is stated right on the top of page 15. So really focusing in, if you're asking for over $20,000, not only how your business is being impacted, but how other businesses are being impacted. If you can include that, that would be really helpful in terms of board review and also for your grant agreement timeline. All right, so at any point, if you have questions as we go through, just type them right into the chat box, and I will look at all of them at the end, and we will do a little Q&A session before we exit. So let's just read through these goals, performance measures, and outcomes once more, and then I say we move on. Type in any questions that you have, and at the end, I will be sure to address. So this is what it looks like in the grants, the Crazy Grants Management System. So you'll want to click Add, and then you will add a project goal. And just to go over what we just talked about, so a project goal is what you propose to accomplish through this project. Each goal should have a corresponding performance measure and outcome. Just to add on to that, each goal, you might have 2 performance measures and outcomes with one goal. You might not. There's no right or wrong way. It depends on what your goal is. Project goals should be aligned with at least one statewide strategy goal. So that I didn't touch on yet, but on page 14, you'll see a handful, starting at the top, of different strategies that have been implemented by the state. If any of these fit, I would say absolutely include them right in your goal. So you can put your goal in, and then you can put even like a little star and say, this relates to farm to plate strategic plan, local food production, sales of local food. So yeah, take a look at that as well. Your performance measure is the way in which the effectiveness of the project will be measured. A well-written performance measure should be simple, easy to understand, realistic, worthwhile, and must be quantifiable measurements of the project's progress that are easily, that doesn't make sense. Progress, period. Take away that or easily. You're not going to put in a number there, but you're going to put in the unit that is going to be measured in the outcome. Your expected outcome, what are the impacts and changes you anticipate will occur due to project work? It could be on you, on your business, or on other businesses, quality of life, the quality of life of businesses served. It could be your sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. Expected, and then you have your example there at the bottom. All right. Okay, great. So I think, and let me just do a double check, I think that is a good start for your goals template. All right, let's move on to the work plan. Okay, this should not be as complex as your goals template. I'd say your goals template will take you a little bit of time to come to your final template and what you want to include. Your work plan is really going over your 18-month period and typing in your project activity, who will do the work, and when will the activity be accomplished. So your project activity, you are just going to describe something within your project that needs to be accomplished. You're going to write in who's going to do the work. So maybe it's a consultant, maybe it's you, maybe it's a builder, whoever. And when will the activity be accomplished? So it could be August 2017 or February 2018, whenever. So for an example, here's an example of a prior grantee's project work plan that's really straightforward. So they have their project activity in the left-hand column. So concrete foundation and slab will be poured after site work is completed. Concrete work will be done by DNA Concrete Construction of Huntington, Vermont. All concrete work will be completed in less than a week in late May 2016. So it's pretty simple, but just making sure that all of your project activities are captured there and who will be doing that work and when it will happen. And just make sure that in the when it will happen column that it correlates with your grant agreement period, which would be, I think we could safely say, you start with May or June. I'd say June to be safe, June 2017 to November or December 2018. That's a good timeline of your realistic grant agreement period. All right. And we'll go back once more just to look at the three definitions. So project activity describes the project activities that are necessary to accomplish the objectives. Make sure you include your performance monitoring, data collection activities. If you request funds for travel, these activities must also be included. Who will do the work? Pretty straightforward, but indicate the project participants who will do the work of each activity, including yourself, employees, contractors. If you request grant funds for personnel and contractors, you must include them in the work plan to demonstrate the requested funding is warranted. One thing I'd say for who will do the work, try to be specific as possible. So if you're working with a partnering organization, make sure you don't just say partnering organization will do the work. Make sure you name the organization. Let's say it's NOFA, just as an example. But NOFA will be helping us with this or providing this service, and we will be working with this consultant. All right, last but not least, when will the activity be accomplished? Please describe your project timeline and include project start date, milestones, and projected completion date. Describe how the project can begin promptly and finish within an 18-month time frame. So there's just a little note here, and that note comes from our grants administrator, Melissa Moon. You may or may not know her. Projects don't begin until after grant agreements have been written and signed. So that basically means, if you're awarded, the start date doesn't correlate with when you receive that notification letter. It actually starts after we receive your W-9 and we make sure the certificate of insurance and you sign your grant agreement. That's when it starts. So I'd say late May, June to be safe as you're writing your work plan. Okay, so let's see. It is 5:04. We finished very early. If there are any questions at all, I'd say now is a great time. You can type them in. Let me just go to the next page here. You can type them into your little chat box, or you can shoot me an email if you don't want to go into specifics here. But you're welcome to. If there's any other questions relating to your application or to the guide, I'm also happy to answer those now. Or you can just shoot an email or give me a call. If I don't pick up, leave a voicemail, and we can schedule a time to really, talk more in depth about specific questions related to your proposal. Any questions for now? All right, so I will at this point stop the recording. I'll still stay on the line, so thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please reach out to working.lands@vermont.gov or give us a call at 802-585-9072 to talk to myself, Noelle Savoyan, or Emma Hansen, who can help you as well.